Imagine arriving at a Seventh-day Adventist camp meeting expecting traditional worship, only to be shocked by gospel legends like Karen Clark Sheard and Ricky Dillard. With claims of rule violations, spiritual tension, and a move that split the crowd, witnesses are describing it as the most startling event in the history of camp meetings. Behind those hallowed tents, what actually transpired? For this one, you're not prepared. Tradition, reverence, and a deeply ingrained worship structure are hallmarks of Seventh-day Adventist camp gatherings. However, something occurred this year that has churchgoers discussing in whispers and some publicly criticizing what transpired. Gospel heavyweights Karen Clark Sheard and Ricky Dillard were asked to lead a special song section. Let's also state that the church bulletin did not contain the events that transpired on that stage. From leaders appearing surprised by soul-shaking high notes and praising breaks to allegations of inappropriate musical selections, backstage disputes, and tearful testimonials that deviated from the script. This year's camp meeting had an electrifying, tumultuous, and for some spiritually awakening atmosphere. We'll go into exactly what transpired at the camp meeting, the response from SDA leadership, and the reasons this contentious event has caused division in the gospel community in this video. Was it a flagrant violation for Seventh-day Adventist worship etiquette, a much-needed drive towards unity and spirit-led worship, or a divine disruption? You won't believe who screamed off stage, who was silenced in the middle of a song, and what elders and organizers are currently saying behind closed doors. Hold on tight, because this tale has protest, praise, and a performance that might have permanently altered the course of gospel history. There were rumors of conflict before the camp meeting even started. The Seventh-day Adventist camp meetings are an annual occasion for spiritual refreshment, education, and rejuvenation. These gatherings, which prioritize modesty, reverence, and a worship style that represents the church's essential beliefs, which usually do not contain full-blown gospel theatrics, have a conservative framework. Thus, when the committee for the camp meeting declared that the main musical acts would be Karen Clark Sheard, a gospel star with strong Pentecostal origins, and Ricky Dillard, the vivacious choir director renowned for his theatrical stage presence, both excitement and grave concern were expressed in response to it. A few of the younger Adventists were ecstatic. They believed the denomination ought to embrace more expressive worship methods and open up. However, not everyone agreed. Indeed, inviting such mainstream gospel leaders could jeopardize the doctrinal order of our worship and lead to needless discord within the body, according to a leaked email purportedly authored by a district SDA senior. The most contentious discussions occurred during Zoom calls for private planning. Two committee members threatened to quit over the choice to invite Dillard and Sheard, according to an insider who spoke on condition of anonymity to a tiny gospel podcast. "They don't represent our style, our theology, or our Sabbath values," one person allegedly said. The event proceeded in spite of the criticism, with Ricky and Karen confirmed to perform. "This isn't just about music, it's about what kind of spirit we're allowing into our sacred space." In defense of their choice, the organizers stated that they wished to foster solidarity within the larger gospel community and close the generational divide. Others suspected political agendas as well. Popular gospel musicians may have been brought in to draw crowds, even if it meant stirring things up, as young attendance at many SDA events has been dropping. Even before the first note was sung, tensions were high. Debates on social media erupted. The time had arrived. Flyers were circulated with headings such as "This ain't your grandma's camp meeting anymore." Others cautioned, "Don't let emotionalism replace reverence." Late Saturday afternoon was the time. Anticipation was high and the big worship tent was full. They had cameras rolling. The rows were packed with local leaders, youth ministries, and delegates. A few had arrived with much anticipation. Others sat quietly, cautiously. The lights then went down. The chorus entered with purpose, vitality, and color rather than silent signity. This processional was not your typical Adventist one. As the music grew louder behind them, Ricky Dillard, wearing a shimmering green robe, walked in, flailing his arms wildly. Release came after his choir burst into song even louder. With their rich harmonies, foot stomps, hand claps, and key changes, two of his greatest hits sent a tsunami of appreciation through the tent. It became tense at this point. The crowd clearly divided. People were standing, hands raised, and even tears streaming down one side. Leaders, on the other hand, were sitting uncomfortably, their notebooks closed. Even one elder allegedly fled in the middle of the song. Witnesses reported seeing an assistant worship coordinator hurry backstage in concern, perhaps to go to a senior elder. Shortly later, during a crucial solo moment, one of the choir's microphone levels was inexplicably switched off for more than a minute. It's unclear what was spoken. Was it sabotage or a technical error? Ricky's commentary followed. As he ascended the stage between songs, he declared with purpose and passion, "Let everything that hath breath, and I mean everything, praise the Lord." Tradition must occasionally give way to change. That single line ignited a firestorm. While some guests gasped, others applauded. That sounded like a straight slap in the face of the fundamental tenets of traditional Adventist worship. People began using their phones to record. Clips went viral on the internet. Videos of participants entering full Pentecostal praise mode appeared on Instagram and TikTok. Some shouting, some dancing, and others even killed in the spirit. They weren't accustomed to the SDA vibe. It was life-giving for some, spiritually out of order for others. Many of our elders saw it as an ambush rather than an altar call, and a Southern Union youth pastor later stated on a podcast, "It was powerful, but the energy shifted too fast." There was no spiritual warning. Some organizers were reportedly rushing behind the scenes. According to one insider, Dillard's performance lasted longer than anticipated and caused such an emotional response that it was necessary to restore order before proceeding, resulting in the cancellation or delay of at least 3 scheduled programs. The place was buzzing after Ricky Dillard's powerful set. The solemn, reflective tone that characterizes Seventh-day Adventist services had been completely replaced by a more worshipful environment. Some leaders thought that things would settle down and possibly even get back to normal. However, such expectation was dashed with the introduction of Karen Clark Sheard. There was loud ovation as soon as she took the stage wearing a sleek blue suit and distinctive shoes. She wasted no time at all. As the organ began to swell, Karen launched into Balm in Gilead, one of her most potent anthems. This is where things start to become heated. Karen was initially supposed to sing a single song and say a brief prayer, but she deviated from the plan, according to the internal run of the event. She stated, "I sense a change in here. Someone needs deliverance, not a program." As she turned to the audience after completing her first song and raised the microphone once more, the crowd burst out. People started to stand, yelling and waving their hands. In the midst of the camp gathering, an intense altar call in the Pentecostal style started to take shape. Not everyone, though, was celebrating. Several SDA organizers were clearly rattled just off stage. "She's off the schedule. She needs to stop," a senior elder allegedly murmured to an assistant. Karen allegedly tried to cut the microphone when another assistant was spotted frantically gesturing towards the sound booth, but she persisted. Jesus, her second song, is a love ballad. She made it obvious with key changes, ad-libs, and full backing voices that had the audience in the pews crying. Formality wasn't why she was there. She arrived to minister. However, this is the point at which everything changed. Karen gave a testimonial in between the songs. "There were calls and pressure, and I was on the verge of canceling this appearance," she said, fighting back tears. "But the Holy Spirit reminded me someone here needs a breakthrough tonight, and I wasn't going to let tradition stop a testimony." One insider claims that the comment caused a stir backstage, with an Adventist conference representative allegedly approaching the event host and demanding that Karen be pulled early. There were hushed arguments, calls to denominational leadership, and even suggestions that the music segment be dropped completely for the following year. An SDA coordinator and a guest musician from another denomination reportedly exchanged angry words backstage after Karen left the stage, with one witness stating, "This isn't a concert. This is a place of worship." That was hardly a divine action. Karen's team, on the other hand, remained resolute. According to a person close to her, she departed the venue feeling both satisfied and wounded by the criticism. She would, however, do it again in a heartbeat. Within a day, social media was inundated with videos of her performance. One of them, in which she belted the last note of Balm in Gilead, received 1.2 million views on TikTok in just 3 days. The comments were divided, with some accusing her of disobeying the SDA order and others describing it as an anointed moment. The true storm brewed not in the pews but in the private leadership meetings that followed, and while some attendees left feeling spiritually ignited, others left angry. calling it the most disorderly camp meeting in years. It became evident that this was not going to be a quiet affair once the last cord faded and the tent emptied. Several church executives described the incident as a spiritual breach, and top leaders were deeply troubled by what happened, according to a verified source who attended the Monday morning SDA administrative debrief. The worship committee was formally reprimanded and a follow-up report detailing the timeline of events and protocol breakdown was ordered. 2 days after the event, a now deleted statement was posted to a regional SDA conference website, stating, "While we appreciate all guests who joined us in worship, we acknowledge that portions of the recent music segment did not align with the doctrinal tone expected of our sacred gatherings." This was in addition to at least one regional director allegedly proposing to implement a full ban on non-Adventist guest performers for future camp meetings, citing the incident as evidence of theological and cultural incompatibility. Gospel fans quickly reacted and prominent influencers and gospel vloggers criticized the church's response. "We are reviewing how future collaborations will be handled." The post was removed within 12 hours, but not before screenshots went viral on Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Many saw it as a passive-aggressive jab at Ricky and Karen. Thousands of Adventists, both supporters and detractors, jumped into the debate after a YouTuber with over 300K subscribers posted a reaction video titled, "They invited Ricky and Karen, then got mad when the Spirit showed up." Some defended the performers, claiming that the Holy Spirit transcends denominational boundaries. The most incriminating rumor came from a heavily followed Adventist Facebook community, where someone claiming to be an insider posted, "Next year there will be no gospel guests." Others countered that following church rules is just as important as having passion. For a period, Karen and Ricky were placed on an unofficial blacklist. Never again should you expect to see their names on anything SDA. Although this hasn't been confirmed, the fact that neither Ricky Dillard nor Karen Sheard have commented on the event since has only fueled rumors. Although videos of their performances continue to garner views online, one gospel website claimed that Karen declined an upcoming Adventist Women's Conference performance without providing an explanation. A quiet generational divide appears to be growing in the SDA community, as younger members have taken to social media to demand greater freedom in worship, with hashtags like "Let the Spirit Move" and SDA worship reform starting to trend in niche circles. Shortly after the event, Ricky was disinvited from a Christian university's worship summit, according to another source. An anonymous blog post from a self-described SDA pastor revealed another twist at that point. Perhaps the music wasn't the problem. There was more to the issue surrounding Ricky Dillard and Karen Sheard's attendance at the camp meeting than just loud music, lengthy worship breaks, or drawn-out testimony. Perhaps it was the Spirit upsetting our control, and now we're calling it chaos instead of conviction. What transpired under that enormous tent was not merely about showmanship, it was about two gospel heavyweights daring to bring authentic Spirit-led expression into a space that many feel has become more about rules than relationship. At its core, it revealed a growing divide between tradition and transformation, a generational and spiritual crossroads that the Seventh-day Adventist Church and much of the larger Christian community can no longer avoid. The church is struggling with how to change without losing its identity, and younger Adventists are calling for inclusion, relevance, and authenticity. For them, artists like Ricky and Karen represent a connection to genuine emotion, unadulterated worship, and a style that reaches where traditional methods sometimes fall short. Whether you agree with their style or not, what followed revealed something deeper. However, older, more conservative members find that same style intrusive, a challenge to decades of doctrine, order, and sacred rhythm. They worry that if the boundaries are blurred too much, their denomination's identity will be lost in a sea of charismatic performances and gospel trends. And this isn't just an SDA problem. Worship and music are changing, but is leadership keeping up? The Dillard and Sheard moment did more than just interrupt a program. It sparked a discussion and forced pastors, worship leaders, youth departments, and regular churchgoers to confront some uncomfortable questions. This is happening in Pentecostal, Baptist, AM, and even non-denominational churches. Many are now calling for open forums, town hall discussions, and genuine conversations between youth leaders, musicians, and elders. Should musical passion ever take precedence over worship protocol? Are we preserving sacred order or boxing the spirit into formats? More importantly, are we listening to God's move, or are we just responding out of fear of losing control? We're not attempting to demolish our foundation, as one anonymous youth worship leader put it. A few SDA conferences have even started holding worship and culture panels, allowing a variety of speakers to discuss how the church may remain doctrinally sound while yet accepting contemporary manifestations of praise. The Spirit of God cannot be micromanaged. He moves in silence and sound, in reverence and revival, and sometimes the most uncomfortable moments are the ones that reveal the truth about where we really are. Whether you think Ricky and Karen crossed the line or carried the mantle, one thing is undeniable: we're trying to build on it with freedom, faith, and fire. Perhaps that's the lesson here. After all we've discussed, including the invitations, the resistance, the performances, the backstage tension, the leadership backlash, and the social media storm, one thing remains clear. Something changed at that camp meeting that went beyond a musical digression or an emotional outburst. They started a fire that won't be easily extinguished. Whether you think that was brave or out of order, one thing is certain: the gospel world felt it. For some it was deliverance. Ricky Dillard and Karen Clark Sheard did more than just perform. They pushed against decades of sacred norms. It was a moment that revealed a deep conflict between the structure of the church and the spontaneity of the Spirit. As spectators, worshipers, churchgoers, choir directors, youth pastors, and elders, you must now ask yourselves, what do you want the future of gospel worship to look like? For others it was a disruption, but in any case it was obvious. Should we uphold tradition even if it distances us from the next generation? Is it possible for Karen to be anointed and Ricky to be burned inside the confines of a conservative camp meeting? This was more than a tense incident involving two gospel legends. It concerned a bigger. In the church world, spiritual reckoning is taking place everywhere. Head knowledge against heart experience, rules versus revelation, old versus new. It is not a matter of picking sides. Finding a balance between purpose and passion is key. We run the risk of losing a whole generation of believers who are eager for God but fed up with being told how not to worship if we don't have these discussions now. Thus, we would want to hear from you. Did Karen Clark and Ricky Dillard get shorn out of order, or did they just let God work in an area that needed to be shaken? Should SDA worship change or remain constant? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. We are interested in hearing all viewpoints. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this channel. Hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss our next in-depth analysis of gospel culture, church debate, and faith that defies convention. If you value daring discussions, hard realities, and learning the truth about what's truly going on behind the pulpit, and never forget that God is still communicating, whether it be in a shout or a whisper. Are we prepared to listen to Him over the cacophony? Keep vigilant, keep involved, and most of all, stay in tune with the Spirit even when the church isn't. Until the next time.